for joining us on quick notice. Today, we had the pleasure of announcing some promotions here at the Phillies. Sam Fuld has been promoted to general manager. Jorge Velandia has been promoted to assistant general manager, and Terry Ryan has been promoted to special assistant to the general manager. So on today's call, we have Dave Dombrowski, our president of baseball operations, along with Sam Fuld and Jorge Velandia. And I'm going to, before we start to take questions, I'm going to hand it over to Dave for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. And for people listening, this was sort of a fast-moving day, a lot going on. So Terry Ryan may jump on at some point if he can. And when I called him, he was out cutting down a Christmas tree. So I said, go ahead and cut down your Christmas tree, and then we can, if you can make it, great. Don't worry if you can't. So, it's an exciting day for the Phillies organization. To be able to announce the promotions that we have, Sam being promoted to general manager, and Jorge, in my little bit of Spanish, going to be an assistant general manager, and then Terry joining us as special assistant to the general manager. First starting with Sam. When I came on board, some people asked me if I planned on hiring a general manager, and I was really unsure at that time period. You're always looking to get better as an organization and grow however you can. Preliminarily, what I had tried to do and have done is call as many people as possible in the organization and talk to them about their roles, what their thoughts are, feelings about the organization, responsibilities, and did that with numerous people. And I'm not done with that process yet. I came across extremely impressed with Sam, and really when I talked to him, back in my mind, I thought, well, this might be a logical person as a general manager. I asked him at the end of a conversation, that the first one we had, I said, well, I've heard a lot of great things about you in your career. Know you've interviewed for manager's job. Do you have a feeling one way or the other if you'd like to be a manager or general manager in your future? Knowing that he really could be either. And he said, no, the more I think about it with my skill set, think of myself as being more of a general manager, front office type. I've really, it's interesting. I was totally impressed with the interview. People in the organization spoke in glowing terms at all levels about him, with his knowledge, with his personality, the way he gets along with people. I've heard about his intellect in the past. I was also impressed the way he presented himself about his responsibilities and how he understood the nature of being a big league player. And yet with the information that he presented was information that they could understand, and knew that he needed to present it in a fashion that they could understand. I also looked at it. Sam is, I hate to say this, but he's much younger than I am. I think he's a good complement to myself and the organization. It's a situation where I am by no means adverse to any analytical approach and anything that can make us better. But I think Sam is much more intelligent in those areas than I am. I think he can complement myself and our front office in a fine fashion. And hopefully also, too, we can then in turn help him grow, because this is going to be, it's a fast-moving process for him, but I think he can handle it. So that said about Sam, I'm going to say a couple of words about Jorge, and then I'll turn it over to Sam, and then in turn, Jorge will have some comments. In George's, again, same situation. Had a nice long conversation with him. Very impressed. He's done a great deal in baseball throughout his years. Been all over, not only as a player, but been all over in the Phillies organization, and in really every aspect of on field. Been on the field in an instructing perspective. He's been on the field evaluating talent, been all over Latin America. Extremely intelligent, well-regarded, well-liked in the organization. I think, to me, when I talked to him, not only impressed, but being in a position where I think his next step for growth would have some exposure in a major league office. So he will, with his family, he's agreed to relocate to Philadelphia when time allows. So I think that will lead him to being a general manager at some time. And then we can talk about Terry later if he jumps on board. But enough said. from my perspective. But I'm thrilled to be able to introduce to you, who, and believe it or not, Sam and I have not met in person. So this is like I remember the first day I made my first trade over a telephone by sending messages back and forth without talking to somebody. This is the first time I introduced somebody as a general manager within the Zoom world. But congratulations, Sam. It's all up to you. So welcome aboard and congratulations.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate those kind words, and I want to start by thanking our ownership group, John Middleton and the Buck family. This is an incredible opportunity that I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of. I want to thank Dave for thinking of me and giving me this opportunity. He called me last week, inviting me to be a part of this process, and to be honest with you, it was overwhelming. It was something that I had thought about for a long time. Even back to my playing days, thought maybe someday down the road this would be something that would really satisfy me and challenge me. And I didn't think it was going to happen this quick necessarily. And when Dave called me, I was ecstatic, overwhelmed. I said, yes, let's interview, let's go through this process. And that was following the introductory call that Dave had alluded to. And between that introductory call that we had and the following interview, I've really enjoyed the time I've spent on the phone. I cannot wait to meet Dave in person, but I think so highly of him and what he's done to this game. He's a legend in this industry, and I'm really ecstatic to get to work under him and work for him in any way that I can make him better from my own experiences, whether that's as a player or in ways that I've been exposed to some of the newer ideas and methodologies in this game. I'm really excited to do that. I'm excited to put another ring on his finger. I know he's got a couple already, and I want him to have more, and I want to have one myself. I didn't get an opportunity as a player to put one on. I played in the playoffs a few times, but I am really hungry, really thirsty for a championship. I know a lot of Phillies fans out there are too. And I'm excited to be able to head down that road. I want to thank Matt Klentak for giving me this opportunity and bringing me into this organization 3 years ago. The exposure I got, the opportunity I got in this organization to get to know so many facets of this organization that are so important in the way we operate, from player development to amateur scouting, pro scouting, international scouting, the major league staff, of course, our R&D group. I've gotten a really good opportunity in a relatively short amount of time to learn our organization and get to know our people and to develop relationships. And I'm really thankful for that opportunity. I think it's allowed me to be able to step into this position and feel really good about it. So I'm humbled. I'm excited. I cannot wait to get to work. And I'm just really excited to call Philly home here for the foreseeable future. Our family loves being here. We planted our roots here, and I can't wait to allow them to grow more here in the Philadelphia area. So thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. And Jorge, like to say a few words, please. I think I believe, I'm not sure that you're the first Venezuelan-born individual to be an assistant general manager with an organization. Something also that's a very tribute to you.
Yeah, I believe I do. So it's quite an honor. But first of all, I just want to thank ownership, John Middleton and the Buck family, and Dave Dombrowski for believing in me. We had a great conversation early on, and I'm happy to be here. I've been here for quite a few time now, and I know some of you. There's been so many people in the past 2 or 3 hours. There is such a humble experience of all the people that you have worked for throughout my years in baseball, and especially here with the Philadelphia Phillies, that call you to congratulate you and wish you good luck. So it's such a humble experience. I'm excited for this opportunity. I believe I'm prepared. And I just looking forward to help all our group, the group that Dave's putting together on the decision-making side of things, and happy for it. There's so many people that I would like to thank, but that will take a long time for me to do. So, because I've been in the game for quite a while, but definitely, I would like to mention a few guys. Like Benny Looper, when I first retired as a player, Benny took me under his wing and guided me to where I am right now. I wasn't sure of what path I was going to take, similar to Sam. I started coaching my first 2 years in women's sport, and then I moved to a different variety of roles within the organization. So Benny was a major influence in my life, the second part of my career, I will say. So I want to thank Benny. Obviously, Ruben Amaro Jr. was the GM at that time, so he gave me the first opportunity to come here and work for the Phillies. And also Matt Klentak, I've been working along Matt for the last few years, and it's been a great experience and a very humbling experience of continuing to learn and prepare me for this job that I'm going to do. This is a new challenge for me. My wife and my family are very happy of moving to Philadelphia, a city that I got to know in the last 10 years, and I'm looking forward to move with the family to Philadelphia. Thanks again.
Okay. Gracias, Jorge. Terry, I'm just checking to see if Terry happens to have chopped down his Christmas tree yet.
I'm back, Dave.
Hey, there's Terry Ryan. All right. He chopped down the Christmas tree. Let me just say, and because I'd like Terry to say a couple words. But I think for me, I know Terry's been part of the organization for a while. I think giving him the title of a special assistant to the general manager puts him in a position where he contributes even more so than he was in the past. Respect his opinion. When we had a conversation last week, it was me talking to some of the personnel, and I looked at, and we were talking about a player, and I saw Terry Ryan. Terry's one of the most respected individuals in the game of baseball, not only as a person, which he's amazing, but as a baseball person. He grew up as a scout. He was regarded as one of the top scouts in the game, and then grew himself to be one of the most esteemed general managers in my time frame, and had great clubs there in Minnesota. And when I looked at that Zoom and I thought, wow, we've got Terry Ryan with us. We need to take advantage of his abilities if he'll allow us to do so. And when it talk about players and evaluation, and now having the ability to help us in however he can and spread his wings, talking to clubs even more so for us, I couldn't be more thrilled. And we've known each other a long, long time. We competed against head-to-head many times, and usually he came out on top at that point with his Minnesota clubs and my Tiger clubs. But Terry, thrilled that you're on board. Congratulations, and I'd love you to say a couple words.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Dave, very much. And I'm fortunate to be with the Phillies. And I've been here about 4.5 years now, and I do know Sam, and I know Jorge well. And the organization, I've got a little depth in it in a lot of areas, scouting, our development area, the affiliates, our major league teams. So I think I can help out. Got some experience in the big chair that, as Dave alluded to, I can be his eyes and ears out in the field. I'll probably shift a little bit more to the major league side than I've been in the past, but regardless, I'm looking forward to working with Sam and Jorge and the other people. This is an organization that I've come to be very proud of. I was over in the American League a long, long time, but I've gotten to know a lot of people in this organization, and regardless of what that record looks like, we've got good people here. We've got to do some things, and we've got some work to do, but we've got good people to work with and to move forward with. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm glad to be on the same team with these gentlemen.
Thanks, Terry. Greg, we're in your hands.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So as we've done for the last several months, please use the hand raise option. And when you're not talking, please be on mute. And all the guys are available today. So if you have any questions for any of them, just let them know which one you're talking to. We will start with Matt Gelb from The Athletic, and then go to Megan Montemoro from The Athletic.
I guess I'll start with Dave. How will the structure work in this new front office? Is Jorge in charge of player development and scouting? I mean, is Sam in charge of certain departments? How will the hierarchy work, and what's the status of some of the other holdovers from the front office?
Well, the other individuals in the front office have not changed. I think they will remain with their same responsibilities. I look like it from a growth perspective, from Sam and from Jorge's perspective. In Sam's case, we talked about specific. He'll assist me with everything that takes place. He'll be involved in everything that happens at the big league level. But also he'll be in a position where I really want him to focus. As we know, he's been in the title of integrative baseball performance. But I think that is the organizations that are progressive now, that are doing every little thing that they can to get better. I look for Sam to be able to benefit us there and bring some of those ideas and thoughts to us. But again, when he does that, he'll be working on every aspect of the organization with us and with me. In Jorge's case, he will continue to be I think one of the advantages you have to do is you take advantage of individuals and their strengths. And in Jorge's case, he'll continue to do a lot of the same things he's done from an evaluation perspective. We will also expose him to things that are going in the front office, and also be involved in our conversations from a trade perspective when we talk to people. I've told Terry this, I've told Sam, I've told Jorge. When you talk about clubs, now you have 29 other clubs, and I'm touching base with them now, but as you start talking about players, you can't talk to every club yourself. There's just not enough time. Things have moved on. So they'll be involved in talking to clubs with me. So that the other people in our office, their responsibilities will not have changed. We'll all work very closely together. And I think as we kind of get to after the first of the year and have a chance to further define some of this, we'll have maybe be able to sit down, all of us together in a Zoom meeting and talk about anything more specific than that.
And Sam, you went from almost being Red Sox manager to now Phillies GM. That's kind of an unusual off season. How does this happen? How does somebody interview for both a manager and GM job in the same off season?
Good question. I mean, I think you could probably make the case that the lines have blurred between those two roles in some ways. I mean, I think the responsibility of a modern day manager in a lot of ways is being comfortable with the use of information and being on board with some of the newer ideas that exist in this game. We're certainly seeing that around the industry. I don't think that's any surprise. And I think that, appreciating what a manager's job is a really important part of the general manager's job. Like it's a really important relationship. The relationship that Dave is going to have, and is going to have with Joe, and the one that I'm going to continue to have with Joe is a really important one that I think this day and age is as crucial as can be. We need to be aligned in all the initiatives that we have, from the front office down to the field. And I think that's, in some ways where I can help the organization and provide value and, have that player experience and that sort of perspective as the player, and even having in my mind, at least put myself in the shoes of a manager. I think that's helpful. I think that's just gonna make us better.
This question is for Sam. Obviously, you've been in this organization for a couple of years now. You've seen things, from being in the clubhouse to more front office role. So I was curious, now that you're in this position, doing a self-evaluation of maybe some of the shortcomings of the organization the past few years, like what do you identify as the steps that need to be taken to maybe close the gap, and things that you've seen behind the scenes in your different roles to get you guys kind of over that hump?
Yeah, I've certainly witnessed a lot of good, positive progressions within the organization the last 3 years. I've been a part of that, some more hands-on than others. I think anytime you go through a transition in which we have over the last few years, there's challenges and there's bumps in the road that are inevitable. I'm excited about, continuing to integrate our departments. There's so much information out there. I think we went from an organization that didn't rely upon information in the way that we do now. And I'm glad that we've made that transition. But with it comes challenge. There's a lot of information. It can be overwhelming. There's information from the medical side, the R&D side, the pro scouting side, the strength and conditioning side, it's an overwhelming amount of information. And I think the really good organizations are able to take that information, synthesize it, digest it, and create really good ways of evaluating players and developing players. And I'm excited about helping that process forward. I think we've made strides in that area, but I think we can continue to push in that direction, and hopefully I can help along the way.
Okay, next we'll go to Rob Maddie from the Associated Press and then Scott Lauber from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Hey, Sam, congratulations. How valuable was the experience of interviewing for a manager for you? And what is it about specifically about the GM role that appeals to you more so than being in the dugout?
Thanks, Rob. I think there's a lot to be excited about both roles. And I think the interview process with Boston was, it was a really enlightening one. I think it got, anytime you get a little exposure to another organization, specifically one that has had a lot of success, and thanks to Dave and others who have led that group, I think it's really helpful to just get perspective of the way that different organizations work. And in that regard, I think that experience was really helpful for me. We don't get to look under the hood too very often, and it's not like I know the inner workings of the Red Sox, but I think getting to know those people and what they value through the interview process is just helpful perspective. It put me, again, going back to my earlier comment, I think appreciating what a manager's role is, especially a modern manager, and putting myself in those shoes, understanding how information can be integrated in a really reasonable and easily digestible way for players. I think that's incredibly important for a manager, and it's maybe just as important for the front office to appreciate. So, in that way, I think like both jobs are really appealing. I think in the front office side, they're just over the last 3 years, I've been exposed to a lot. I'm lucky that I've been in a bit of a hybrid role, so I've gotten to be kind of in the trenches with the team to some extent over the last couple of years, in the clubhouse, living that sort of 162 game, or in this year's case, 60 game grind. And then in the winter, been exposed more to the front office side. And look, I just think the using information, really using my brain and getting this organization better is I like that kind of challenge. And certainly you use both as a manager and as a front office member, but in this particular way, I think from a lifestyle standpoint, it really fits with our family being here. I really value being a dad and a husband, and being able to be on the front office side, I think gives you a little bit more flexibility where you're not necessarily tied to, the schedule on the refrigerator, and that's valuable for me on the lifestyle standpoint. And I'm thrilled. I really am.
If I could follow up real quick, Sam, do you feel like that might be something that's out of your system? Like you got the interview for the manager, now you went into this GM role, and this is where your future lies in progressing through the front office? Or is that something you may revisit at some point down the line? Have you even reached that determination?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to be doing what I'm doing now that I don't envision, going down that road anytime soon. I really don't. I'm just thrilled to be the general manager of the Phillies. I don't have any immediate desire to do anything but that. So you never know what the future holds. I hope to be a part of this game, and I hope to be a Philly for a long time. So, but at this point, I'm just, this is all happening quickly, and it's all happened in the course of 24 hours, really. But I'm just dialed in on being a general manager right now.
Thank you.
Hey, Sam, congratulations. I was going to ask you about sort of what nudged you toward a front office job. Since you've sort of addressed that, I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit more about this role that you were in last year or this past season, leading a department, heading a department that had been newly formed. Was that how influential was that experience in maybe putting you on this path the sense that you were able to do that and maybe focus a little bit more off the field, maybe kind of veer a little bit more in that direction. Was that experience anything that kind of put you on this course?
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I think, to be quite frank, to be given the opportunity to lead people and manage people was really satisfying for me. It wasn't necessarily something I had been tasked with in my first couple of years with the team. I was reporting to Cap and to Matt with the work I did on the major league side, but I wasn't leading a group of people, and I was lucky enough to get that opportunity this year. So leading a pretty diverse group of people, strength, Paul Fournier on the strength and conditioning side, Paul Buchheit on the athletic training side, Michael Zahar and Josh Littman and Frankie Simica on the analyst and coordinator side. A really kind of diverse group of people. That was really cool. I enjoyed that. I think it challenged me in a lot of ways, and it forced me to step out of my comfort zone in a lot of ways. I mean, I was a generalist of sorts. I wasn't an expert I'm not an expert in athletic training. I'm not an expert in strength and conditioning, but I knew enough and respected the work that our group does enough to try to put ourselves in a position to integrate those departments even more. And
I'm also just curious, the GM manager relationship is pretty important. I think most general managers have talked about that over the years. How did your relationship with Joe kind of develop this year? You had spring, half or 3/4 of spring training to be around one another, but we weren't down there much. So I don't know how involved, how around him you were throughout the season, and how your communication with him went during the season, and maybe what you were able to pull from being around him in any way that you could this year.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it was a tale of two seasons. I think I loved being around him during spring training 1.0 in a pre-COVID world, and I think I was really just impressed by the way he led our group in that way. And I got to be really hands-on and close with him, and he's impressive. I mean, his reputation, he lived up to every bit of it in that sort of first exposure, just in the way that he united our group. We had such good vibes, I'd say, in early March. And then COVID hit and things changed. And to be quite honest, my primary focus in leading our medical group was just getting through the season and dodging COVID and following protocol. And unfortunately, a lot of the ideas and plans that we had as a department got put on the back burner. That isn't to say that I didn't communicate with Joe, but it probably wasn't to the extent that I would have in a normal season. I know that. I saw Joe just about every day. I didn't travel with the team, but every home game I saw him, and certainly tried to grab him whenever he was free. But it was just tough to communicate this year. I tried to stay out of people's way, really for the sake of COVID. So I was around, but some of you on this call may know I was up in the concourse most of the time trying to be outside and out of people's hair. So I have so much respect for Joe, and I can't wait to further that relationship.
Next up, we'll go to Jim Salisbury from NBC Sports Philadelphia, and then Bob Brookover from the Inquirer.
Hello, congratulations to all, and happy holidays. Dave, I was wondering, how wide of a net did you cast in filling the GM position in particular? And, did you talk to people outside the organization as well? How many folks did you actually interview for the job?
I did not talk to anybody outside the organization. My preference was to stay internal if we could. And really, a lot of the names that are external, I do know very well. But really, my goal was to stay internal if possible. And the two gentlemen that are on here are the two people that I chose to interview. I did talk to some other people about my reasoning behind that, and why I was going in this direction where other people would have responsibilities. But the two lengthy interviews that I had, I did have that original conversation of, hour to hour and a half with numerous people in the organization. I can't even give you the number, but numerous. And again, still to grow. But as I came across in the case here in Sam and Jorge's situation, for me, what I was looking for in the general manager's role, they had the type backgrounds and I think personalities that I like in that role and I thought would complement me. So they were the only two that I interviewed. Although, again, I had that preliminary conversation with numerous people in the organization.
Now, you've worked with this structure before in your career. I think early on in Detroit, I think Randy Smith worked under you. It didn't last long. I think there was a couple of guys maybe in Boston. You have such a reputation of being the guy that's out there, hands-on. What will you've talked a little bit about roles, but what will the dynamic be like in terms of how much autonomy you will give your baseball group? Are you ready to do more of that at this stage of your life and your career? How does that all kind of come together? Because it would seem to be, being Dave Dombrowski's GM, maybe it's really Dave Dombrowski's show, and those guys are essentially, part of the process, but not the head guy.
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, Detroit was different because when I went into Detroit, I was the president of the whole organization. Okay. So not just the baseball operation. So it was different. And then I decided to also assume the baseball operations. And when I went to Boston, we didn't have a general manager at first. Quickly promoted Mike Hazen, who was in the organization at that time, to be the general manager, and we were working together. But what had happened is he was the number 2 decision maker, and Arizona came by and offered him to be the number 1 decision maker. So that's why sometimes from a title perspective, can kind of people play with titles at times. Right. I mean, so the reality as president of baseball operations, I'll be the one that would make the decisions when it comes to trades, but I'll seek the input of everybody else. But ultimately that would be my decision, final decision, working with everybody. But everybody will, one thing I do believe in is delegation of responsibilities, but people keep you informed on what's taking place. I will meet with, now again, when I say meet, when we get back together, I haven't even been able to formulate how I want to carry forward after the first of the year yet with the Zoom calls that we're going to have to get everybody on calls and discuss different things. Because right now it's been sort of, okay, need to get to know this person first before we grow that. But ultimately, people will have their own responsibilities and they'll handle them and they'll come back and say, hey, this is something we need to talk about and keep me informed of what's going on. But I think what's happened is, in a baseball operations, the difference from when I first started, which is a long time ago, is that we've grown so much.
Right.
You can't do all this stuff yourself. You just can't. I mean, and if you think you can, and I think we probably would resemble some of the other organizations that have presidents of baseball operations and general managers, like I think of the Cleveland Indians. Well, Chris Antonetti's in charge, but Mike Chernoff does a lot for them and is highly respected. And there's when you were with the Cubs, Theo Epstein was the president of baseball operations. Jed Hoyer was the general manager. I know myself because they divvied up clubs, even though I knew Theo and knew him well. Usually my contact was Jed. I mean, so I would think we would operate very similarly to that, but there's so much work to go around to be on top of it and to keep growing and we want to be the best in every area that we're involved, that responsibilities will be out there and everybody will be involved in doing them.
Have you, in your time so far, limited time, have you had a chance to reach out to JT Realmuto's agent and his camp and gain some perspective on where that situation lies?
Well, his agent actually called me yesterday, Jeff Berry, to just really was not a negotiation. It was a welcome to the Phillies organization. And I've known Jeff Berry for a long time and talked to him and welcomed me aboard and talked about my family, talked about his family and said that we would stay in contact. And expressed to him again how much we'd love to have JT on board, and that's really where it ended at that point.
Have you had a chance to speak with representatives for potential relievers that might be able to strengthen your bullpen?
We have had some. Yes, we have. Now, when I say that, that's again delegation. We have other people that are on the phone too. We've got Ned Rice, Brian Minetti that get involved in that. And yes, we have continued to do that. Yes. But I'm not going to tell you who they are.
No, that's. I mean, Terry Ryan's chopping down his Christmas tree. It's getting late. Are you close to anything?
No, I'm not. Will put it. You never know about those things. And my instincts are no. But could somebody call you back and say, "Hey, we want to join the Phillies"? Maybe they will. I mean, I can't say that we're close to anything.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations.
Happy holidays. Congratulations, everybody. Dave, to start with you, what you said a lot of these guys are going to stay in the same roles. What specifically is Matt going to do now?
Well, Matt is in a different situation because he's not part of, I would say the day-to-day operations of what we're doing in the front office at this point. He's still available. We can talk to Matt and consult with him on anything we would like, but he doesn't have a per se active role with what we're doing on the baseball and the operations day to day.
Okay. The other thing is, I know it's only been 10 days, 10, 12 days, whatever it's been, but if you've got a feel for, you've been a lot of places for a lot of years, is there any comparable to what you've stepped into here to what you've been in the past at all? Is there anything you can see similar to any of those places?
Well, it's a little bit, the thing that's different, first of all, is and I have done a lot, but when I was in Montreal, I just walked in, was promoted there. Then I went to Florida where we didn't have any baseball people. I mean, I was the first one in the whole baseball operation. Then went to Detroit, and Detroit was, we made a lot of changes. We just didn't have a very good club at then. We kept a lot of the personnel, but changed some responsibilities and built it up. And in Boston, I think the difference is that, Boston, I guess we went on a 1-3. There would be more the personnel on the field aspect of it there in Boston. I mean, everywhere you looked around on the field, the playing field, there was a really good positional player at that time. But I'd say from a front office perspective, a lot of similarities there, a lot of good people that I needed to get to know myself. It was different. I got hired in the middle of August, did the same process, met with everybody and on individual, but it was face-to-face. That was the one difference. For like an hour and a half to find out responsibilities. And we ended up making some shuffling of responsibility, but we didn't have a lot of changes at that place. I'd say there are a lot of similarities because I've been very impressed with the personnel that I've talked to in the Phillies organization. A lot of quality people as far as knowledge is concerned. And I'm still getting to know them by all means, and we'll continue to do that for a while. But maybe some comparisons between the Boston and Philadelphia situations.
And did you feel like in Boston, obviously you made some big signings and you had some money to spend, but were there guys that just developed that led to the process of your team getting better, and also just minor moves that became major additions for you guys?
Well, sure. I mean, there were guys that, were stepping in at that point. I mean, when I talk about it, I mean, everywhere you went, I mean, it didn't take probably a keen eye to see that Mookie Betts was going to be a good player, or Jackie Bradley Jr. was going to be a good player, or Xander Bogaerts was going to be a good player. Unfortunately, Dustin Pedroia got hurt. He was our second baseman. But then we saw young players that stepped in and continued to grow. So you saw a guy like Andrew Benintendi step in and do very well for us. Rafael Devers continued to develop and step in for us. Eduardo Rodriguez on the pitching staff was very important for us. And he had some ups and downs in the beginning, but he turned into a quality big league pitcher. So I see some of those same, I mean, here we're looking at when you talk about young guys, and Alex Bohm at third base, who, premium young guy, Spencer Howard stepping in to the rotation and being a real strong candidate, being a quality guy for us. We have Hazley in center field, that has a chance to step into there. So we're really in a spot where we have some young people that are growing too. And then, I think it's really important, which we're trying to do. You need to step in and complement it. If it's signing like we did there, Ryan Brazier, who pitches in the World Series for us, You reach out to Mexico, we did, and we signed a guy like Hector Velasquez, who ended up being a very important part of the organization. We'll do the same thing here and look for those same type of bargains that we can find.
And if I could, I just want to ask Sam one quick thing. Sam, actually, two quick things. One is congratulations. As we talked about here, the structure is your goal. The Phillies general manager has always been the guy, and I know it's different, and as we discussed in different organizations, has always been the guy that's made the final decision. Is your ultimate goal to be that guy who is the guy who, hey, when it's time to make the baseball decision, I want to be that guy?
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. I don't know the answer to that. I honestly, I'm so I'm focused on being a really good general manager for the Phillies right now. I don't know what the end goal is. I really don't. I mean, I know that in the last 3 years since retiring as a player, I've had my mind changed a lot. So it's kind of almost a fruitless exercise for me to look too far down the road. And I know that's, some people are lucky to have their 10, 15, 20-year plan all paved out in their mind. And I'm just not that. And I know that for the next few years, I'm going to, hopefully help lead this team under Dave, and surrounded by a lot of really good people, and hopefully lead this group to a lot of wins and a lot of success. And that's really my goal right now.
And one last thing, how can this? Sorry, Greg. How can the Phillies better integrate in your mind? I know you didn't get to do this as much as in previous years. Integrate analytics on the field going forward. How, in your mind, how can that be better?
Sure. I mean, as I said, it's an overwhelming amount of information, and now analytics is just it's grown from the ability to evaluate what has happened on the field of play. So instead of looking at players in terms of batting average and RBI, the industry has grown to understand some advanced metrics like WOBA and FIP and things like that. And it's grown since the StatCast era. The amount of information has just grown exponentially. And we now understand the flight of the ball and the movement of players, and that's really valuable information. And now we're exposed to even more information, how the body moves. We're through the newer Hawkeye systems, we have the ability, and other technology, we have the ability to really identify how the body moves and how players are able to spin a baseball in such a way, or impact a baseball so hard. That's an overwhelming amount of information, and it's all valuable. And our job now is to just take in all that information and understand not just what has happened and how we evaluate players for what they are, but try to use that new information on how the body moves and what's developable, more easily developed, and be able to use that in our assessment process and how we develop players too. So it's a pretty monumental task. It's a ton of information, and it's a task I feel like we're up to because we know how important it is.
Bob, can I interject something on that? On one of the questions you asked about to Sam there. The thing I would say is, and I don't want to take this the wrong way, because I'm not looking to move out. I just started with the Phillies organization. I have a lot of energy, and I look to do this for a while. I'm not though 44, so I'm 64. And if I'm doing my job correctly and we're doing our job correctly, as Sam progresses, he will be the guy making those type of decisions, the final decision. That's where my goal is. It's like when I worked for Roland Heeman when I was with the White Sox, I assisted him with everything, but he grew me and helped me eventually reach the point where I could become a general manager elsewhere. And that's what really, I'm in a different phase of my life. I really like to work with young individuals that you can mentor. And so I think it's a lot of fun to do that. And that's what my goal is, to be in a position whenever that time comes. And again, it's not for a little while down the road, but that's what the goal is. And they'll participate in everything that we do, and that time will come at some point.
Thank you.
All right, we got time for a few more. We will go to Tim Kelly and then Eno Saris.
Hey, Dave, what will Andy McPhail's role be in your front office, and will it include an active role in baseball operations?
No one, I mean, Andy, first of all, again, I've known Andy forever. And I've talked to Andy often. Andy runs the business part of the operation and baseball. He reports to John. I report to John too. But I also would be foolish to not talk to Andy about a lot of things in his consultation, because he's been here for a long time and he has tremendous baseball abilities. So I have talked to him often. But when we talk about, let's say, a player, he has made it clear, hey, Dave, that's your decision. Those are yours. So you keep him informed. I'm sure he'll keep me informed on what takes place. But he's made it clear that, hey, that's your end of it to run.
Do you expect him to keep that title as president, or does he change to an advisor or something different?
Well, he's president of the Phillies, which usually in today's world, again, that's where titles can be different. But a lot of people, years ago, you used to have the president of a team and the general manager. And then that was the head of the baseball operations. They changed a lot of clubs have changed the head person in the baseball operations to be president of baseball operations, and yet you still just have president. So I wouldn't think Andy would change his title. It'll be up to him. I've heard that this may be his last year. He's told people that it's been, but I'll kind of kick him and say, well, hey, I hope that you change your mind and stay with us in that respect, so he could keep doing that role. So I don't anticipate him changing his title anywhere in the near future.
Hey, Sam, this question's for you. I covered you as a player, and I want to take you right back to the Superman days. It wasn't too long after having those great highs in Tampa that I was talking to you a lot in Oakland. I remember having these conversations with you that I was like, oh, this is absolutely, he thinks about baseball differently. You mentioned something about thinking about this even as a player, that you might do something else after you retired. But what was that process like? When you're playing, a lot of times it's like, I just want to be in the lineup tomorrow. So how did you sort of realize that this was something that you cared about? And how did you deal with that when you were kind of dealing with the everydayness of being a player too?
Yeah, thanks, Eno. It's good to see you. I think, if I'm being honest, it's something that I thought about. I was probably forced to think about at the beginning of my career, because I had no idea how long my career was going to last. I was a 10th round pick who signed for $25,000 and hit .210 in the first half of my first season, and thought I was going to be done, not even getting through a full season. So I was always thinking about what's life after playing going to look like. And there were plenty of instances along my career, when I was toiling in Des Moines, Iowa, thinking, all right, this is the end. I was, again, struggling at the dish and thinking this might be the time where I have to, hang up the cleats and think about life after playing. So plenty of instances throughout my career in which that sort of crossed my mind. And I was really lucky to play all the way up, through really the 2016 season. And I had an injury that year where I was on the disabled list for the entirety of the year. And it was really at that point where I thought, okay, I'm still laser focused on getting back to being healthy and continuing my playing career. But along the way, you go through a rehab process, your mind goes in a lot of different directions. And one natural direction was, okay, what do I really want to do? And I read Moneyball 10 years prior, and that was like kind of where in some ways the light bulb went off, and recognizing how my interests connected with Major League Baseball's interests. And ironically played for Billy, 8 years later, and played for the A's in parts of 3 years there. So being exposed to the way that they operate, being exposed to the way that other organizations operate that I played for, including Terry on this call. Was a Minnesota Twin for a brief moment, but got to see what a tremendous organization the Twins are. Tampa Bay Rays, the Chicago Cubs. It was great experiences that I think sort of paved the way for this current role that I have. And I don't know, there was never one particular day where I thought, all right, this is what I want to do. But I knew that, when I decided to hang him up as a player, I spent a lot of nights talking to my wife, thinking about what direction we wanted to go in. Did I want to stay in baseball? Does that even fit for us and our family? We've got 4 little kids. Does this even make sense? I think it was pretty clear. Like my wife would probably admit it before I did, that this was the direction that made most sense for me, and this was something that really stood out as a really challenging, interesting opportunity. I'm glad I went in that direction.
Right.
All right, we'll finish it up with Todd Zalecki, and then we'll go to Rob Kessner.
Hey, Dave, wondering, what do you make out of Jeff Berry reaching out to you yesterday? Do you read anything? What should we read into that, if anything?
I don't read anything into it other than, I've known him a long time. He's reached out to me. I guess the good part is that we continue to have cordial conversations about and being fortunate enough to be in the organization in which he represents a quality player. I mean, it's also a real, makes it very simple for me to tell him how much we would love to have him.
And that was your first time talking to him since he took the job?
Yes.
Second question is the date. When we talked to you last time, I asked you if you think there's a way to balance or to sign JT and fill all the other holes that you need to fill with a decreased budget. And I'm wondering, after being on this job for about 2 weeks now, if you have any clearer picture of your ability to re-sign JT and then fill all the other holes with the budget going down.
Well, I'd say that I don't think it's changed my original process. I mean, it's one where we'll fill as many holes as we possibly can. But, when you start talking about, our bullpen wasn't very good last year, and there's a lot of spots out there to fill. So some of them are going to have to come from an internal perspective, I think, no matter what, or some opportunities of people. They're not going to be high salary type of individuals by any means. So we'll do as much as we can. And, I've talked some to clubs reaching out to me about just finding where they are. I've got a lot of notes, which has been well provided for me, but really haven't had a lot of active trade conversations either. So some of them could come from that route also. So not a lot of different feeling when I talked to you before.
Do you think you have enough talent in the system to make worthwhile trades, significant upgrades?
Well, we're not, like, again, we're not just one player away. So we're not going to be given a lot of players from our minor league system at this structure where we are for a player. We want to build through the system, use as many of the guys we can, but it doesn't mean that we won't trade certain players if we think it's a good deal for us. But we're not looking to empty our farm system for a specific player at this time.
Thanks, Dave.
Sure.
This final question is for Jorge. If you don't mind, on behalf of my sister station, Telemundo 62, could you just tell us in Spanish, please, about the excitement of this opportunity for you, and also, as Dave pointed out at the beginning, the historic part of the hire? Thank you.
Bueno, primero que nada, estoy sumamente orgulloso de esta nueva promoción aquí al equipo de los Phillies de Filadelfia. Muy agradecido con John Middleton y la familia Buck, y obviamente con Dave Dombrowski. Muy súper contento de trabajar con Sam Fuld, que yo lo conozco desde hace mucho tiempo, inclusive estamos en Venezuela. Y obviamente con Terry Ryan, que tengo un gran respeto hacia él. Muy contento. Han pasado 10 años con esta organización y yo me conozco esta organización desde arriba hasta abajo, todos los prospectos que tenemos, el equipo de Grandes Ligas, y sumamente contento, muy orgulloso, muy contento, y ya tendré que mudarme a Filadelfia y empezar a trabajar ya en este nuevo año con el equipo de los Phillies de Filadelfia. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Again, congratulations to all 3 of our guys on their promotions. We hope everybody has a happy and safe holiday season.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks to everybody for being here.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, everybody.